Hi there and welcome. My name is Emanuel Petrescu and I'm an SEO consultant from Toronto, Canada. I've worked for more than 10 years in digital marketing, the last 3 exclusively on SEO and the last 6 by serving small to medium-sized businesses in the North American market, that means US and Canada. Today we're going to do a small video tutorial on how to run the Screaming Frog SEO spider in the cloud. Now, Screaming Frog already did the heavy lifting by putting together this article on their website. So right now we're gonna mirror it and do the video version. Before we dive in, what is Screaming Frog? Well, Screaming Frog is a marketing agency based in the United Kingdom. You didn't expect that answer, did you? Well, this agency built their own SEO tool, which is quite a popular crawler, a spider, and many SEO professionals, including myself, use it daily. It has many capabilities and functions, and as you can see on their website, what you can do with it is find broken links, analyze page titles and metas, check for redirects, discover duplicate content, generate sitemaps, visualize site architecture, and many other nice, good things that you could do with this tool. All the cool features are in the paid version, which is quite affordable. So if you're not familiar with Screaming Frog, I suggest you go to screamingfrog.co.uk and hit download. Now, as opposed to other SEO tools that you might be familiar with, such as SEMrush, Ahrefs, or Moz, Screaming Frog, the SEO spider, runs locally, meaning on your computer. Now, if you're serious about your SEO career, which you are since you're watching this video, at one point, I'll guarantee that you'll need to crawl a website that has millions of pages. And you heard that right, millions of pages. If you're serving small to medium-sized businesses, most websites from that category have between 20 to 200, 300 pages. But if you're serious again about your SEO career, you will at one point need to crawl a website that has millions of pages. And once you start running a tool like this on your computer, you'll see it behaving differently. Why? Because your machine, your computer is not built for such tasks. How do you do it then? By running this tool on a virtual machine or in the cloud. Now, a little bit about the cloud. You might heard about AWS, Amazon Web Service, which is the most popular one and is preferred by many developers. Microsoft Azure, and yes, I did Google how you pronounce Azure before that, and you'll see every now and then Oracle, especially from legacy projects. But today we're going to focus on Google Cloud, which essentially is the AWS from Google, basically, right? And why would you why would we use Google Cloud? First of all, SEOs tend to use Google Cloud because theoretically we're already familiar with this tool. We have probably built maps via its APIs, speech to text tool, that's something I use quite often, Google Vision or PageSpeed API, the one that integrates with different other SEO tools. So we're kind of like already familiar with Google Cloud and with its projects. So without further ado, we're gonna go dive in and show how to create a virtual machine and run Screaming Frog on it. Okay, so in order to run Screaming Frog on the cloud, we'll need to log into Google Cloud by simply going to cloud.google.com and log in via a Google account, which is most likely a Gmail as well. And for this purpose, I'm going to use a Gmail account that I have to experiment. Now we can either type in cloud.google.com or simply follow the procedure on Screaming Frog's website. when we're gonna go and create a new project inside that Google Cloud account. So right now it can be a little bit daunting and can get complicated and sophisticated. We're just gonna focus exclusively on creating a project for our task here. And it says right here, first things first, you'll need to create a Google Cloud project that will call SF Cloud Crawler. So let's see if we can manage to figure out which one is it. Yep, SF Crawl. Hey, I already forgot what was Cloud Crawler. We're not going to select any organizations. Apparently there's a quota that on how many projects you can build, and right now it's creating the project. As you can see here, you can get up to $300 in credit from Google to run your machine in the cloud, and we're gonna probably benefit from that today. Once you created, again, it says here that it can be overwhelming, but we're gonna go to compute engine, and we're gonna follow again this procedure, and it states here as well that they give you some credits, and I did receive for another project $85 extra because I was part of an organization. So yeah, this can actually help. So we're gonna go to compute engine, and we're gonna first select the project, go to compute engine, and gonna click enable, and once we press enable, it will take some time to load. Billing required. Enable billing. So I'm actually going to enable the billing procedure, and I need to create a billing account. So most likely we're gonna hit pause for the moment because I will be sharing some confidential information. Okay, so I have added the information, billing information. I added my credit card, and you can see that it added $85 extra, and I'm gonna take advantage of these and click activate. And I'll need to remember that I have some credits on this Google account that I could use for other purposes in case I'll need them somewhere. And an email just arrived confirming that. So we're gonna go back to our task here to actually create a run Screaming Frog on Google Cloud. We're gonna go to compute engine as said in the past, and gonna click enable. Once we get here, and it's gonna probably take some time, not as much, but since I'm recording the screen, I've experienced some delays. Let's hope this won't take that long. You have the option here to try this API, so I'm pretty sure you can play around with this, but once we're gonna enable it, you'll see how this operates by itself. It can take some time. It even says here that once you click enable, it can take some time to enable, to load. And I'm gonna hit pause right now and come back a little bit later. Okay, so now we can create our VM instance, our virtual machine actually. So we're gonna, you guessed it again, hit create instance, and we see here they give an example. Different websites will have different needs of requirements, but they were able to crawl 3 million URLs with less than 20 pounds. So that's something. So we're gonna name the instance as they named it here, SF Cloud Crawler. I haven't hit any keys correctly. And the region where the server is. And obviously there's a changing cost for each server you choose. They chose US Central 1 Iowa. For this one we're gonna choose the same. And we see we have a monthly estimated cost of 25 US dollars. And we see here actually the instance that we have, but we're gonna change this as shown here, right? So we're gonna configure our virtual machine. I'm gonna compute optimize. We're gonna be choosing C2 series with C2 standard 8 machine type. So we're gonna first choose compute optimize C2, and they recommend using 8 CPU, 32 gigabytes of memory. We're gonna simply choose that. We're gonna name it boot disk. We're gonna also mirror what they recommend, because I did it in the past and that's the correct one. So we're gonna hit change. We're gonna use Ubuntu. We're gonna choose, they recommend using Ubuntu version 20. You see, disk type SSD, and size 200 gigabytes. Again, we're gonna do exactly as they recommend. Must be. We're getting a message here. I'm not sure what that means. I don't remember seeing it, but let's hit select. Ubuntu 20 LTS. Oh, okay. There are two Ubuntu's versions, AMD. We don't get any error by choosing this one. So we're gonna continue with our installation. We're gonna continue with our task. We're just gonna read what they say here, because they actually give some explanations on why we chose this specific configuration. And you can clearly see here it's the AMD version that we need to choose. Screaming Frog SEO Spider generally runs much better on an SSD when using database storage mode for crawling large sites. While there are many caveats. As a rough example, a machine with 500 gigabytes SSD and 16 gigabytes of RAM memory should allow you to crawl up to 10 million URLs approximately. So if you want to upload, next they go into some details on how to upload a virtual machine instance from a Google storage bucket, which we'll see later on. We'll need to tweak some permissions, so we're gonna do just that right now. So we're gonna go under user access. We're gonna set access for each API. We're gonna look to see what they recommend, and we're gonna see that in the new VM instance we're gonna tweak storage read and write. Read only, so it's gonna be read and write. We have seen an increase in monthly costs, and that's okay. We're gonna click create. Also, they mention here that they have a Google, they leave a link to Google Cloud Pricing Calculator, and you can basically do a simulation to see how much it will cost you if you want to run certain things. Again, this is highly advanced. We're not developers, we're SEOs, so I always recommend, and before anything I reach out to an actual developer if there's something that I don't know or I need further information to proceed. So yeah, we have created our own virtual machine instance. We can see it right here. So you guessed it again, it's time to celebrate, open up the champagnes and everything. Yay. Now, next step is to install Chrome Remote Desktop. What this does is basically a interface for you to access that virtual machine. So we're going to click the SSH button next to your shiny new VM instance, and we're going to see what happens. A window pops up that, if I remember correctly, will take a little bit of time to load. I'm going to see if it's done on time or I actually need to hit pause again and wait. I'm hoping it will better, and here we are. Yay, don't be scared about this. Whoever installed Linux is familiar with this interface, and whoever has gone a little bit deep into web development, think JavaScript, is familiar with this this screen right now. So we have here on their website the code that we actually need to type into this terminal. So this is called a terminal. I was like having a difficult time remembering. So we can simply copy and paste and right now we're basically enabling setting up everything that we need to actually run the machine and have a interface. It actually says here what this command does is downloading and updating the package information for all configuration sources. When you run this command, you'll essentially check if there's any new software update and making note of them. Next, we'll need to run this, and in general, it's a good idea to read before you run a command in the terminal. On a side note, what I did was I wanted to format for a flash drive for Apple, and the flash drive's name was unnamed, which was also my main hard drive. So essentially, when I wanted to format my flash drive, I formatted my hard disk. That was a while back. Lesson learned. So the next command is to install wget, a software package for retrieving file using HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, FTPS, result and so on. So we're gonna do just that. I'm gonna hit copy, paste, Control C, Control V. It seems like we have it seems like we didn't get any errors. That's important. Next, we're gonna download Chrome Remote Desktop and install it. So we simply click this section here on their website. We're gonna leave some links in the description. In order to continue with that, I just lost the screen a little bit. Okay, usually you see something like an error when there's an error. So right now we're gonna install it. Ubuntu is much easier to use with a desktop environment, and if you're familiar with Windows and Mac, you'll be fine with Ubuntu. To install the Ubuntu, but first we need to install the Chrome Remote Desktop because we haven't actually done that. So we're copying and pasting again, and now it's doing its magic. So where are we installing it? We're installing it on the virtual machine. I don't remember how much this takes, but pausing the video shouldn't be a requirement at this stage. Next is to run the following command to install the Ubuntu desktop environment. So right now we're actually installing Ubuntu, and you'll see a slightly different screen with an installation progress bar. If you can move on, and you can move on once it's finished. So this is where we are. Let's see what happened with the other one. It's still installing. As said, I don't remember how much this takes, so I'm gonna give it 10 more seconds. Oh, in the meantime, oh, it did. So right now we're gonna install, as said, Ubuntu desktop, and as they say here, we can see the progress bar. Well, at least with the progress bar we know where we are, right? So I'm assuming it will take roughly a minute or so based on what we see, even less. Next, we need to install Chrome Remote Desktop to use GNOME, which is the default desktop environment for Ubuntu. So don't worry if you're not familiar with all the terms mentioned here. I got myself familiarized while I first did this myself, and I use Google a lot. But yeah, that's the next step we're gonna do. We're still halfway through. I'm gonna probably fast forward this in the editing later on. By the way, not sure about you, but whenever I see these type of tutorials on YouTube, I hit fast forward at least 1.5 speed, you know, just to go through the entire video faster. It says here that we're going to see a permission denied message. It says, don't worry, don't panic. I was about to call emergency. We spent hours scratching our head trying to solve this. So they did. So you don't have to. Essentially, you just ignore the message. Let's see now where we are. Okay. I'm gonna say we're gonna use this one right now. Permission denied, and we're gonna simply hit sudo reboot. We're not going to copy and paste this because you already feel like we're developers, right? Sudo reboot. Okay, and it's happening exactly as they say. You'll see connection instantly. You'll lose connection instantly, but close the SSH window, and after a short while you'll be able to click the SSH button again to reconnect. So we're gonna close this window. We're gonna hit refresh for no reason, just that it gives us the impression that something has happened. I'm gonna click the SSH button again. We're gonna wait for it to run in the background, and it says here minimizing the SSH window and go over to Chrome Remote Desktop. on your local machine to start what we set up on the virtual machine instance. So it says here click begin, then next, and so on. We're gonna simply follow the procedure, then select set up another computer. So let's see now. Begin. We're gonna click next. We're gonna authorize it. We're gonna click Debian Linux, and we're gonna paste this into our SSH window. I'm gonna click copy and paste. Enter a PIN of at least 6 digits. They say to create a PIN, no characters will appear while you're typing. So your keyboard is not broken. You just need to set up a PIN consisting of a 6-digit PIN number. And I'm gonna go really creative right now, and I'm gonna make it 1 2 3 4 5 6. Hit enter. Enter the same PIN again, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and I should be releasing this video after I've deleted my instance. Okay, so we set up the 6 PIN digits. Once you created the PIN, you may see some error messages, but this can be ignored. I don't remember seeing any actual error messages here. We're gonna move forward. To verify that the Chrome Remote Desktop is running, you can use the following terminal commands. So we're gonna use just that, and we're gonna pretend that we actually understand and know what we're seeing right now, and we kind of like get an idea when we see here active running, right? Then everything has gone smoothly. Again, let's open up another bottle of champagne and celebrate. Now we're gonna go again to Chrome Remote Desktop, and we should see our virtual instance there. We're gonna click on it, and you guessed it, enter our 6-digit PIN. And I'm gonna check this box saying remember my PIN on this device. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Enter. No, I don't. You can or cannot, depends. I'm just simply gonna somehow ignore that box. Apparently TikTok doesn't ignore that box and automatically stores everything you have on your clipboard on your phone. Well, not anymore, they say, but that's a topic for another conversation. Let's see what they say. We're gonna click next, and we're gonna set up probably Ubuntu right now. So as you have guessed it by now, we're actually on the virtual machine running the computer system, the operating system, operating software. In our case, Ubuntu. Remember, we have chose this prior. Authentication required to create a color managed device Ubuntu. So I'm going to give this guy a password, 1 2 3 4 5 6, the same password. I don't think there's an issue. Sorry, that didn't work again. Oh yeah, we're gonna go back to that. I'm gonna click cancel at the moment. We're gonna hit next. We're gonna choose English. We're gonna read the privacy policy. So I'm not going to pause. I'm gonna read it out loud right now. Of course not. But actually this is shorter than I was expecting, to be honest. I'm gonna hit next. Start using Ubuntu. So we have managed to install Ubuntu on a virtual machine on Google Cloud. Congratulations again. Now, before proceeding with installing Screaming Frog on the newly virtual machine we just enabled, we're gonna jump right at the end of this article, and I'm gonna fix a very frustrating frustrating element. So every now and then, after some inactivity, Ubuntu will kick you out and ask you to log back in and add a password that you never actually set up. So this is quite frustrating. You need to trust me on this, and the first thing to do is actually go in and change the password, and they also offer the solution. They probably locked themselves out about a bunch of times. So it says here we'll need to type in the SSH window the following command and replace the username with our username for this machine. In my case, mslamin. So I'm gonna go and do just that. I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna go mslamin. New password. Well, you guessed it. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 30. Type new password. 1 2 3 4 5 6. mslamin. Password updated successfully. And right now 1 2 3 4 5 6 we can actually log in and use the virtual machine. Trust me, it's the first thing that you want to do. In order to prevent the lock screen, we'll need to go to activities, top left, search for screen lock and toggle automatic screen lock off. So let's just do that. Automatic screen lock, turn it off. Do this first before anything else, and you'll be happy. Okay, now the next step that we're going to do is actually install the SEO Screaming Frog Spider. Now, because since this is a virtual machine, we can easily go to a web browser and do it from here. We're actually gonna have said follow the instructions from the article, and in general that's the way you want to do it. So the easiest way is to run a command in the terminal. It says here that at the time of this writing there's a Screaming Frog version, so let's see if anything updated. In the meantime, we can see that something's going on. It's downloading, enabling, and we're actually gonna install after it's downloaded on our virtual machine, right? So I'm gonna use this command. I'll prompt you to answer yes or no input at one point, but we'll need to wait and see, and we can see right now. Do you want to continue? Yes. Enter. Working. I'll be presented with you will have from Microsoft some more information. Hit yes and enter, although here it looks like it says no. I'm gonna click OK, enter. Of course we're gonna read all this, right? I'm gonna click OK. The installation of this package will be cancelled because I click no. So I'll need to essentially do it again. Pam, pam. And we actually have it here. because we installed it via the terminal and we can access it via our remote desktop on our virtual machine. So it got a little bit confusing there, but it didn't cancel the installation. It actually installed it, as you can see here, and we followed this procedure. Again, we haven't read that, so I suggest you can go back and read it if you want to. And from now on you can actually use Screaming Frog the way you'll do it. So again, if you're new to Screaming Frog, it's safe to say that you'll be running it on your computer with no big issue. It's unlikely that for the first time when you're using Screaming Frog you'll need to scan a website that has like millions of pages, unless you're an intern from Amazon or Walmart and somehow everyone lost their jobs, and based on your seniority you become an SEO lead or something like that. It's unlikely, but yeah, you can input your license here, your Screaming Frog license. You can then tweak your setup essentially by hitting this arrow here. You'll toggle between the clipboard, copying and pasting and so on. You can choose to have it the window from the remote desktop full screen, scale to fit, and many other options. Flip it here, left, right, and hide it. Clipboard, because that helps. After you have added your license, you can make rest of the tweaks that we're gonna see some within the next couple of minutes. Before we dive more in with the Screaming Frog, just a note on the Google Cloud. Set up some alerts just in case you forget an instance, or have many and somehow you lose track of things. It can easily get distracted and get charged since they have your credit card. A note here, it didn't happen to me, but a friend of mine, a web developer, told me that even by mistake, if you went over budget or they billed you, support is quite nice, and they if you provide relevant information, they might reimburse you. So it depends on case by case. But how to set up some alerts, I'm pretty sure there's a different way of getting there, but the way I'm doing it is go to view billing and report. You'll probably see an estimate, and obviously we won't see anything at the moment because we don't have anything. We just set up, and we can see here on the sidebar there's a learning option where you can discover more. We can add our tax here if that's necessary, and probably if we come back let's say in a week or two, we're gonna see some charges. But we see here on the left panel some new options. Again, cost table, cost breakdown, all this information we can actually see here, budget and alerts. And remember, we have like $385 in credit from Google, which should be more than suffice for this specific project. Actually, we won't pay anything for this specific project, but this is where you create a budget and set up some alerts. So let's say I want to give it a name, budget one, go quite creative, right? Time range a month, and let me choose this specific project. All projects is just one, so I can't actually choose anything else. Have here some details, but I believe all services, yeah. So probably you can break it down. If you want to run, let's say, 2 virtual machines, you just want to be alerted for one, I don't know, and since you're doing many other, you could potentially do many other stuff with Google Cloud, then you can see the benefit of actually being able to select all these things. And again, remember, you're an SEO, so you'll probably have be limited in how many projects you run in Google Cloud, but a web developer might run on many, right? So we're gonna set up the budget, target amount, let's say $200, and I'll probably 50% budget, 100, trigger on actual or forecast. So we see here the trend, and when they should let me know. Email alert to billing admins and users, and I'm gonna click finish, and now we have set up an alert. Now again, it's unlikely that you as a SEO professional that's been helping small to medium sized businesses will ever get to that, but it's important to know and set up in advance in case but eventually you will be working on a project that will require this kind of setup, and it might be that you are setting everything up, and it might be that it's your credit card there. So setting it up in advance like this, taking these extra 5 minutes would save you quite a headache. One more aspect to discuss, once you've created your project in Google Cloud, you can actually add other Google users to manage or administrate the project itself. So let's say you can set up this project on for a company under their email, under their Gmail, but you want to manage it through your own, which can be helpful sometimes. So you're just gonna simply go in the I am an admin section and add users that will be able to manage this account. And you can see here that it preloads your based on your agenda, and now you have invited an owner that needs to accept, and he'll be able to manage this account, this Google Cloud account. Next step is to configure the storage mode and memory allocation, and as we can see on the article on Screaming Frog's website, by default SEO Spider uses RAM memory rather than your hard disk to store and process data. This provides amazing benefits such as speed and flexibility, but it has its own disadvantages. Again, coming back to crawling at scale, which is why we are doing this process. So if you have a regular website that has 10 to 20 to 200 to even 400 pages, 500, like most sites do, there's no reason to do so. SEO Spider can be configured to save crawl data on disk, but by selecting data storage mode under configuration system for storage. So we're gonna just do that configuration system, and something should appear right now, but it doesn't want to. And now it does. And by following the instructions here, we're gonna select database storage, and we're gonna, by following this instruction, we're gonna leave it by default the directory. We also recommend increasing the memory allocation. You can adjust memory allocation by configuration system memory allocation. And we have I'm not sure how you can go probably as big as you can, but if they recommend having 4 gigabytes here in their article, we should probably follow that as well. you could potentially allocate, it says right here, 30 gigabytes of RAM. As always, recommend 2 gigabytes less than your total RAM. Should be enough 6 gigabytes of RAM. So we chose 4. You can go from there and reconfigure how much memory you can allocate. Remember, we have created a powerful machine, so we can go heavy on the RAM. The next thing that we want to do is to import any custom configuration that we might have on our local machine. So we've been using Screaming Frog locally. We created some filters, we created some additional settings that we want to import in our cloud, as opposed to recreate them manually. So this is fairly easy, and as always, Screaming Frog does a great job of instructing us on how to do so. So we're just simply going to follow the instruction. Now, depending on the size of the file, there are several ways of uploading and importing data. First, we're going to stick to any custom configuration, and first we'll need to actually go to our local machine and export it. We're going to go to file configuration, save as. We're going to put it in a folder and give it a name. Most of the time it's SEO Spider, the default one. So now we've exported from our local machine. So the next thing is we're going to go to our cloud machine via this window that we're already familiar with, and you guessed it, we're going to hit upload. Once we hit upload, we got this message here that will let us browse through our computer to find the file that we want to import, and we're going to simply hit upload file. By default it uploads it in a cloud, and if we want to import it in Screaming Frog, we're simply going to go to file, configuration, load, and it's predetermined here in the home folder in the cloud. Right, we're just going to double click and import those settings. I haven't actually added any settings at this time, but you simply saw how you can do it. Again, the same thing if you want to export configuration. So let's say you've been spending some time in the cloud, you've tweaked some settings and you really want to keep them. You again going to save them locally the same way, and then you guessed it correctly, again we're going to go through to this window, the SSH browser, the terminal. We're gonna download from the cloud to our computer, and we need to keep in mind the name of the file. So let's say we have exported it. Actually, I have the same name for both instances, so it's fairly easy. We're just gonna, again, as said, hit download. We're gonna paste the name, we're gonna hit download again, and it's right here in our browser. We can open it and find it, and not in our browser but on our computer. So that's pretty much how you can transfer files between the cloud instance and your local machine. Now bear in mind that this goes well for smaller file sizes, and they do say here that they recommend using this method for files less than a 1 gigabyte, and it's more than enough for most websites. But again, you're doing this because you want to crawl a large website with millions of pages. So in that case, once the crawling is done after a couple of days, your file size will be even more than 1 gigabyte. So it's there are actually faster ways of doing it, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to export a larger file using storage buckets. There are different ways of doing it, and again they give some links to some more documentation from the Google Cloud, and But again, we're gonna stick to what we need because we're SEOs, we're not web developers. We need to get our data and manipulate it the way we want. Now, as said, and as it clearly states here, transferring files via the terminal is okay for smaller files. It says here that they did an experiment and it took approximately 2 hours to download an export of 1.2 gigabytes. Now, most websites are small websites have a couple of kilos of megabytes in the export, but again, you're doing this for crawling a website that has millions of pages, so most likely your files will be in the gigabytes range. And in order to not waste time, we're gonna download via buckets. Now they give links to some documentation about that goes a little bit more technical. We have gone technical a little bit, but again, we're SEOs, so we're just interested in what we need to get the data as soon as possible on our machine and for us to manipulate it the way we want to. So without further ado, we're going to go to the Google Cloud Console and I'm going to create a bucket. By following the instructions they provide here, bucket names must be unique, and we're going to go really creative here, and we're going to name it simply the way they said, sf-crawl.storage. And we're going to do just that. And I believe it's the first time I hit all the keys right on my keyboard. And then we're going to choose a region. We're going to go with Iowa again. Hi Iowa. And then we're going to choose the storage class, which is standard, and then simply create the bucket. So we're going to do just that. Continue. Crawl storage. It seems like it storage 1. I've previously created a bucket that had that name for testing purposes, so we just added that. We're gonna use region US Central 1 Iowa, and we're gonna keep it standard. We're gonna hit create, and right now we've created the this bucket, crawl storage 1. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use the terminal to actually use the bucket, but before anything else we actually need to export. So I went again very creative and choose randomly a website from the internet, and I chose this one, so I'm gonna export the data. We're gonna leave it as default internal underscore all.csv for different purposes. We can simply copy and paste some commands, right? So we're gonna move this and say here to transfer from your virtual machine instance to the bucket. We can use the following command right now. So for example, we exported the internal tab to the default location, and our storage bucket is all like this. So we're gonna simply copy and paste this, and you guessed it, we're gonna add a 1 at the end because our bucket is actually sf crawl storage 1, and it says here 1 file 97 kilobytes operation complete. And if you want to navigate to your storage bucket, you will see the file is there that you want, that you can download whenever you can. So I should probably refresh this, or was it there? No. So here it is. This is a faster option, and again, this is like you don't even consider this as taking up space, right? But again, we are doing this to crawl big websites, and that's it's quite important, because you will simply hit download and it's gonna download this file on your computer. That's pretty much it of how you can do this via buckets. Before we wrap up, this video tutorial and actually delete the buckets and the virtual machine instance and everything, just to make sure that they're not running there and cost us money. We will create a virtual machine instance from Snapshot, and as said here in the article, once you run through the above process, so everything that we did a couple of times, we will get familiar with the process. And although Google has the tendency to change stuff around, so for example, if this item in the on the left sidebar, it's the third one, you might see it the fifth one, and so on. Nevertheless, you'll get more familiar with the process. You'll actually understand what each button and each action do, as opposed to blindly copy and paste and follow instructions based on the article, which is something I always recommend. And as said here, it's also possible to create a snapshot for your virtual machine instance, which you can use to create further virtual machine instances. So essentially, we don't need to go through all this process except the Chrome remote desktop, but everything else, all the configuration and everything that we run through is remembered, and you can easily go there from that snapshot. And once you do this at scale, again, it's unlikely that you'll need to do this for on your daily basis, depending on what kind of SEO consultant you are, but it's good to know how to manipulate this. So without further ado, we're going to go here and we're going to create a snapshot. That's the best way to access it. It was right here, but of course I didn't see it. Snapshots, create snapshot. We're gonna give it a name, as always. Screaming Frog Cloud Snapshot. Set up for whatever the name is. I usually like to include the dates, so I'll just say July 2022 right now. If it's my website, I'm gonna type in the website URL or the brand name as they said here. Source disk, the one that we have, of course. I'm gonna guess this is regional and Iowa, and we're gonna hit create. Oh, it's already determined, and we're gonna hit create. When the time comes to spin your virtual machine instance based on your configuration machine, once again click compute engine on the left side and then create instance. So I'm assuming we'll need to actually wait for the snapshot to create. We're just gonna double check to see what's going on. It's still, the status is not created. So we're gonna come back whenever this is done. And the snapshot has been created. So we're gonna go to virtual machine instances. We're gonna create an instance. We're gonna configure and hit change for the boot disk. Instances, create an instance. We're gonna hide this here. Not sure if they gave it a name, but we're gonna choose Snapshot, and we're gonna choose the snapshot that we just created a couple of minutes prior. We won't change any other settings right now, and as said here, you can change the specs and boot size disk to suit your needs. It says here, don't forget to adjust the access scope if you intend to use storage buckets. So again, everything is related, but right now we have a pretty solid idea of how these operates and how we can easily go back and forth. Then again, we'll need to create a new go to Chrome Remote Desktop and copy and paste the access code you newly created for the new virtual machine instance via the SSH window. We're not going to do that, but for other information, always refer to this article, and I'm pretty sure that if anything will change, they are going to update this article. So it's harder for me to update this video, but the article is always relevant. That said, we have successfully created a virtual machine. We have installed Screaming Frog on it. We have run crawlers, and essentially you can think of using Screaming Frog as you might use your other SEO tools such as SEMrush or Ahrefs in the cloud, so you don't need to operate it on your local computer. That said, we're right now gonna terminate everything and cancel. So as said, we're gonna simply terminate whatever we did right now in order to, not pay for something that we don't use and we might forget. In many cases, this will be just a one-time use. So we're gonna simply follow the instructions here and simply go to virtual machine instant page. We're gonna click the three dots and simply hit delete. And for whatever reason, the computer is getting slower and slower, so you might see one of the reasons why you want to use something in the cloud. Remember, you lose everything from this virtual machine instance, so double check you have saved and export everything. If you created any storage bucket or snapshots you no longer need, they can also be deleted in a very similar way. So we have created a snapshot and a storage bucket, so it's a good idea to actually delete them in the same similar way, just to make sure that we don't have any extra cost added. And again, you already set up some automation, so that won't be the case. Thank you so much for I'm gonna hit delete. I'm just gonna check to see if there's anything else, but there's another instance that we just created there. And also lastly, you can also delete the Chrome Remote Desktop device by clicking the bin icon next to it. You can stop the instance, allowing you to start it again when required. However, any resources attached to the VM, such as persistent disks, will continue to incur costs. So the best way is to actually delete it. And obviously we're not we don't have that instance anymore of Linux, so we don't see anything here. So we're gonna simply hit delete button, and right now we have $385 in Google Cloud credits that we can use for other purposes And again, in our SEO career, we will definitely interact with Google Cloud more, so that budget will be well spent. Thank you so much. If you have any questions or concerns, or you want to say hello to me, my website is emmanuelp.com. It's probably time for an update. Subscribe, like, share, and all the good stuff. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and I'm definitely spending too much time on TikTok. Again, thank you so much. Enjoy, and thank you, Screaming Frog, for all the effort that you put up in educating SEO professionals around the world.